morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear colleagues. I'm glad to welcome you to our international conference dedicated to the issues of academic mobility of sciences. I'm Yuri Balega, Vice President of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Today I will act as a moderator of the first part of our meeting. Dear colleagues, the Russian Academy of Sciences carries out international cooperation on various issues of scientific and technical activities. We are glad that today some of the Russian Academy of Sciences partners are present at our conference, with whom we have long established a productive partnership. One of the important issues of our activity is the organization of international academic exchange in order to improve the qualification of scientific and teaching staff of research institutions and universities. We'll talk a lot about this in our meeting today, and for the opening of the conference, let me give the floor to the President of Russian Academy of Sciences, Alexander Sergeyev.
Dear colleagues, I welcome you to our international conference on academic mobility. Today, the international mobility of scientists as a factor in the formation of a unified scientific space, as well as in the internationalization of science and scientific activity, acts as an important link between the countries of the world. Russian science is interested in organizing joint projects and international scientific conferences, workshops, preparation of joint publications, organization of joint grants and awards aimed at the development of academic mobility. The Russian Academy of Sciences is responsible for the scientific support of the activities of state bodies and organizations, among other things, and it should solve the issue of organizing scientific exchange. We actively participate in the development of mechanism of scientific diplomacy. Currently, a working group has been established under the Presidium of the Russian Academy of Sciences in order to develop a program for international academic mobility of scientific researchers and academic staff. The working group includes representatives from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of the Russian Federation, Federal Agency for the Commonwealth of Independent State Affairs, Россотрудничество, the Diplomatic Academy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Moscow State Institute of International Relations, representatives of 18 universities, research institutes, and centers. At today's international conference, together with our long-standing partners from Austria, Belarus, Great Britain, Germany, Kazakhstan, China, Finland, and France, we plan to discuss the development of international cooperation in the field of exchange of scientists, consider the possibilities of developing and co-financing bilateral and multilateral exchange programs, and exchange thoughts and ideas regarding our experience and challenge. I wish all participants successful work and give the floor to the moderator of the conference, Vice President of the Russian Academy of Sciences, academician Yuri Balega.
Academic mobility programs in our countries, about the problems faced by the organizers of these programs, the possibilities of bilateral cooperation that we can use in the implementation of international programs, expeditions, field research, and much more in which our researchers are interested. As the President of Academy of Sciences just said, now we are developing the international program of scientific mobility of scientists and will be grateful to the conference participants for their advice and, in a sense, expertise in the field of exchanges. And one of our partners, the head of the Analytical Center for International Scientific, Technological and Educational Programs, Irina Kuklina, who, by the way, is a member of the group of developers of our academic mobility program, will open our conference today. I would especially like to say that conference viewers can send their questions to the broadcast chat. We will definitely pass them on to our experts. Irina, you have the floor now, please.
Thank you for the possibility to be at the opening of this conference. I also very pleased that the program of international mobility is going on at these fast steps. I would like to show a presentation to give a view of the overall strategy for the Russian Federation, how the mobility program will be incorporated in the key document we have right now within the set agenda of the country. We have presently two key documents or two white papers that dedicates or presently knows for the international, set as the stage for the international cooperation. One document is the strategy for the S&T development of the country. This document was initially formed in 2009, and it gives one of the profound steps towards looking at the science and technology as a grand challenges. This gives us a completely different dimension when we think of the international cooperation with the European countries, Africa, Latin America, North America, Asia, Australia. The whole world is moving towards grand challenges when we think about the technological development. This document was then set up and moved in 2016 and is currently updated for the second stage. The international cooperation plays a key role in this arena and was hence informed, enriched by the other document set up in 2019, which is the concept for international scientific and technical cooperation of the Russian Federation. This prior document speaks about the key players and the actors of international cooperation, which include the Presidential Council for Science and Education, the Ministry for Science and Higher Education, STI funding agencies and institutions. Especially significant role in this area plays the Russian Academy of Sciences, with a profound number of researchers traveling across the world and representing Russia in in quite a number of expert councils and expert institutions. We think also the program will also include a part of the research institutions, the universities, which plays now an active role in cooperation between the research institution and the universities, to which the Russian Academy of Sciences gives the rating for the expert reviews. When we look at the key goals and objective for the international scientific and technological cooperations, we first of all think not only about the STI development, but the addressing the grand challenges comes right now to the main goal for international cooperation, as well as promoting Russian science abroad. We speak about different objectives, and the key objectives comes to the science diplomacy development, to the exchange of knowledge, development of research infrastructures, as well as participating in the international initiatives and organizations such as United Nations, World Trade Organizations, and the other area, including the Group 20. I would like also to mention that the basic principles set up for the international cooperation of the Russian Federation include the development of the STI instruments, which set up not only the bilateral and joint programs, but also plays an active and important role for the participating of Russian scientists in the international events, looking at the global STI expert community representing Russia within the expert groups, charging the profound competitions and concepts, but also participating with the expert views in the set of international goals addressing global pandemics, zoonoses, climate issues, and other challenges that we need to address, not only by one country, but many countries. And of course, the STI networking platforms enhance the scientific mobility and provide open access to the research infrastructure and to open data, which is a key element within the academic mobility set up in the international documents and profound papers. We can also speak about the key measures providing to implement the international academic mobility of researchers. These key measures are all set up in these two documents that I mentioned at the beginning of my speech, which include the exchange among scientists and laboratories, specialized programs and projects enhancing the mobility of young researchers, providing the international development of Congress and programs held in Russia across the country, participating as well in the Russian researchers in the international programs worldwide, and international expeditions, which plays an important role I would like just to mention on the slide, one of the important part for the Arctic boat that gives an opportunity, or not only for the key and advanced researchers, but also to the young researchers to make their first steps in the joint international programs. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would like to say that the program that we will discuss today will provide us with a great opportunity to speak about the possibility of mentioning in the and looking at the areas for the academic mobility with the different parts of the world. In addition, before giving the floor back, I would like to say just to give the slight view on the key partners that we mentioned in the international consortiums. Presently, we have more than 400 projects. Presently, we have more than 400 projects set up in the international consortium in 2018, 2020, within the international programs of the ministries. We have the similar amount of programs going through the foundation, Russian Science Foundation. We have a similar amount of programs going through the participants of the universities. Coming together, when we speak about the number of researchers traveling across the world, participating in joint expeditions, participating in joint laboratories, we are speaking within the last year of several thousands of researchers. And this comes more than 10% of the Russian researchers in the country. With this, I would like to say that we have a great need for setting up a specific program that will look at the academic mobility in more details and will give a clear and profound view for the researchers how they can be measured if they would like to travel to different unknown issues, unknown territories, and in the same way how they can participate and provide their advice looking at the new elements of the scientific discoveries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irina, for your informative review. We'll definitely return back to your presentation during the discussion session. In the meantime, I give the floor to France, a representative of one of the leading scientific organizations in Europe, with which the Russian Academy of Sciences has been fruitfully cooperating for many decades. Director for Research, and at the same time Deputy Director of the Department of European Studies and International Cooperation of the National Center for Scientific Research of France, CNRS, Mrs. Chantal Hanmalek.
Mrs. Kuklina, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, good morning. I would like first to thank the Russian Academy of Sciences for this invitation on the very important topic of academic mobility, which is the cornerstone of international cooperation. I will first give some elements of context about CNRS and CNRS international cooperation, and then explain how we cooperate with Russia and the challenges that we are facing. I can't turn my presentation on, which I don't understand. Okay, I'll just go on like this. Internationalization is part of CNRS ADN. I would like to underline the fact that working with CNRS is like working with the entire French community, as over 95% of our 1,000 laboratories throughout France are in partnership. That means cooperated with universities, with other research organizations and advanced schools. We also have 80 international laboratories abroad. As far as staff is concerned, a large proportion of permanent scientists at all levels are from foreign citizens. And in terms of co-publication, 65% of CNRS co-publication are co-signed with international partner. The CNRS has developed over the years a range of complementary instruments for international cooperation. We have projects, emerging project, PI to PI. We have other projects, more ambitious ones, labs to labs that gather different teams. We have also international research networks, and we also have full-fledged laboratories. Russia is one of our main scientific partners. We have a long-lasting and high-quality cooperation with Russia. And our main partners, institutional partners, are the Russian Foundation for Basic Research, which has been our main partner for the last 25 years. In terms of research performing institutions in Russia, we have
we can see your presentation. Please change the slides. Don't forget to change the slides.
Well, I'm sorry.
We see your presentation. It's okay.
I just can't. That's the whole problem. I'm very sorry. I have a presentation, but I just cannot change the slide for a reason I don't know. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So that was the internationalization. Okay, I'm just going to, that's cooperation, the various cooperation tools we developed. So emerging action, international research networks, international research projects, and full-fledged labs. And now I'm with cooperation with Russia. So among research performing institutions, our main partners are the Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences and the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research, INR. Russia is fourth among our partner countries in terms of the CNRS budget that we devote to international institution actions. It's also the 13th partner of CNRS in terms of co-publication, while France is Russia's third scientific partners, and CNRS, its first partner, with almost 60% of the French-Russian co-publications. With Russia, so coming back on those institutional cooperation tools, we have some 70 projects, 60 of them that are a first stage initiating research more, co-funded with, co-selected and co-funded with the RFBR. And we have 6 international networks and 9 bigger research projects that we also co-fund with the RFBR. And we have 5 international research labs. They're full research labs, 2 in Moscow, one, the Interdisciplinary Scientific Center Poncelet, which has been active for the last almost 20 years now, first in math, now in theoretical physics and informatics also. and we also have in Moscow a research center in social humanities and social sciences. And we have 3 international research laboratories in Siberia, dealing more with archaeology and interaction between humans, animals, and environment. And I'm happy to announce, maybe for some of you, that we have just created this year the last one in Siberia, which is a laboratory in cooperation with the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography of the Siberian Academy of Sciences, which works on interaction, human, animals, and environment in Siberia and Central Asia in Novosibirsk. It's located in Novosibirsk, and it's archaeozoology in archaeozoology. Now I will come to some of our challenges, and some of them are quite big. As I showed in my last view graph, the projects and networks involve mobility, short-term mobility of scientists, whereas the research lab involve long-term stay of scientists, some short-term as well, but the idea of having a joint laboratory located in Russia is to send scientists for long-term visits and stays and work with their colleagues from 6 months, let's say, to several years, ideally. So for short-term mobility, we have a visa, which is fine, which is used, the humanitarian visa. The problem we are facing now with, I would say, the activity, the RFBR stopping its new activity, is how are we going to support now our joint ongoing projects and the next generation of projects. The RFBR had dedicated competitive calls and was our main partner. So that's one, I would say it's more financial issues and who will be financing the Russian scientists on our joint ongoing projects. For our international research labs, we have a different type of problem, and this is linked with their long stay in Russia. The scientists are scheduled then to work more than 3 months in one of our 5 international labs hosted by Russian organizations. The salary of the scientist is paid 100% from France, salary plus indemnity for living abroad. And the problem that we are facing is that we can only send scientists to Russia for long stay at the moment if they have a Russian passport, which is very good. We have Russian scientists, and we're very happy to have Russian scientists in CNRS, but it's a big problem for us to only be able to send Russian scientists for long stay in Russia and not scientists of other nationalities. So the problem is how to send scientists, regardless of their nationality, and receiving their entire salary from France for duration of stays over 3 months, and if possibly 4 years. Thank you very much. And I just want, before finishing, this is a very acute problem for international research labs, our joint labs, but it also could be the same problem if we sent some people in universities in Russia, whatever, because France will still pay their salary and possibly also their indemnity to go abroad. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry for the very bad beginning.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Han-Malek, for your exceptional presentation of international cooperation and academic mobility between Russia and France. And we also will wait you during the discussion session. Just before continuing, I just want to say that the materials presented today will be sent to all participants, and also they will be installed on the site of Russian Academy of Sciences. So don't worry, all the data, the slides, you can copy and read them later via internet. And now I would like to give a floor to Germany, another partner of Russian Academy of Sciences, with whom we regularly conduct various scientific events. I believe that the emergence of the Russian program for academic mobility of scientists can expand this cooperation. Alexandra Rosenbach, International Relation Manager at the Helmholtz Association's headquarters in Berlin, will tell us about the mobility of researchers as a catalyst for international cooperation, as well as the policies and programs of the Helmholtz Society. Please, Alexandra, bitte.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me. I will now try to share my screen, if you just give me one moment. And now I hope that you can see my presentation. So thank you very much. Good morning. I'm very happy to be here today to talk to you about the programs and policies of the Helmholtz Association, one of the 4 large non-university research organizations in Germany. So I'm assuming that not all of you are completely familiar with what Helmholtz does and what our mission is. So I will first talk a little bit about our mission and strategy. So Helmholtz's challenge basically is to contribute to the solving of the grand challenges that are facing society today. Things like non-communicable diseases, climate change, the energy transition of the future, autonomous driving, etc., etc. The way we do it is by conducting scientific excellence in an interdisciplinary manner with a critical mass and long-term research programs. We have profound expertise in large-scale research infrastructures, for instance, particle accelerators, satellites, wind tunnels, large research vessels, etc. That you could say is one of our unique selling points in the German research landscape. And we like to see ourselves as a prime strategic partner at the local, national, and international level. Another really important mission that we try to emphasize in everything we do is the transfer of knowledge into economy and society. So also in terms of entrepreneurship and spin-offs, this is another thing that we are focusing our energy on more and more. So just to give you a rough idea of what we are dealing with in terms of staff and budget within the Helmholtz Association, you can see on the left-hand side that roughly 38% of our staff is scientists, and about the same percentage, 38%, is infrastructure personnel. This, of course, has to do with the fact that, as I was just mentioning, we operate large-scale research infrastructure. So we need highly specialized staff to take care of the maintenance of this machinery. We have a total of over 42,000 staff located in 18 research centers all over Germany. Besides scientists and infrastructure personnel, we also have a significant number of doctoral students, trainees, and other types of scientific personnel. On the right-hand side, you can see our budget. Out of the 4 non-university research organizations in Germany, the other being Max Planck, Leibniz, and Fraunhofer, we have the largest budget, consisting of almost 5 billion euros. The largest chunk of this comes from funding from the federal government and the federal states that our centers are located in. 29% is third-party funding, and 5% is other types of financing. As you can see on this slide, Helmholtz conducts research in the natural sciences. So we have 6 research fields that our 18 centers work in: energy, earth and environment, health, aeronautics, space and transport, matter, and information. And on this map of Germany, you can see our 18 research centers. They are color-coded according to the research field that they work in. So here you can already see that there's a large chunk of centers working in different research areas. Some of them are multi-thematic, some of them are monothematic. For instance, if you look at the AVI, the Alfred Wegener Institute for Polar and Marine Research, they basically only work in the research field of Earth and environment. But then we also have very large centers that have a multi-thematic approach that are highly interdisciplinary, and you surely have heard of a lot of these names before: the Research Center Jülich, the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, or the German Aerospace Center, to just give a few examples of the illustrious members of the Helmholtz Association. They are all legally independent, which also means that they can enter into international cooperation independently. So they do not have to ask the permission of the head office. They can sign their own cooperation agreements, etc. Now, I would like to take a closer look at our internationalization strategy, which, by the way, you can also download in English on our website. Our current strategy runs from 2017 to 2022, so it is still valid at this point. There are 4 core goals formulated in the strategy. For the sake of time, I will not go into them in detail now, but just to give you a rough idea of what we are talking about when it comes to internationalization in Helmholtz, we literally have hundreds of bilateral partnerships worldwide. As I was just mentioning, our centers have their own partnership agreements, but in addition to that, there's also a number of Helmholtz-wide agreements, memoranda of understanding, etc., that are valid for a whole research field or for a number of centers that collaborate around a topic with a partner abroad. We have 4 foreign offices in Brussels, Moscow, Beijing, and Tel Aviv. So I would also like to say hello, of course, to my dear colleagues in Moscow who support us in every way when it comes to collaboration with Russia. We have 7,000 international scientists working at our centers with a contract, but in addition to that, we also have a significant number of guest scientists coming every year, roughly on average 3,500, although of course it goes without saying that last year, 2020, when we were all struck down by the coronavirus pandemic, the number was significantly lower, but that is of course valid for all scientific organizations worldwide, as travel was severely limited. So our international research infrastructures and large-scale facilities are a very important magnet when it comes to international cooperation, because they attract a large number of guest scientists from all over the world every year. And of course, they also act as crystallization points for international collaboration, because researchers come together when they use these facilities. And of course, the connections grow stronger and they make new plans moving forward. So these facilities really have a very important role to play when it comes to our international efforts. And here in the bullet, you can see just a number of our large-scale infrastructures listed. For instance, the polar research vessel Polarstern of the Alfred Wegener Institute that just returned in October from a unique, one-of-a-kind mission to the Arctic called Mosaic, which you have surely heard of. Russia was also a very important partner in this mission. And of course, there are other as well, like the Neumeier station in the Antarctic, or accelerators and laser facilities such as Exfel in Hamburg, or FAIR that is being built in Darmstadt. We also have a funding tool within the Helmholtz Association, the so-called Initiative and Networking Fund. And through that fund, we also try to facilitate international collaboration. The fund is being reevaluated and is restructured every 4 years. So we have just entered into a new funding period with new focal points just now. But in the last period of the fund, we also had a tool called Helmholtz International Labs, which was geared towards fostering collaboration by using research infrastructures together with a highly fitting international partner. If you have a look at our internationalization strategy, you will also see that we have a number of focus countries and in some cases also individual country strategies, for instance, for China, which is of course a very important partner for all of us. But of course, we also intensively deal with Russia, which has been a very important partner country for us for many decades. And as you may know, and maybe some of my colleagues from Germany will also talk about that in later presentations, there is also a German-Russian roadmap for scientific collaboration, which was signed in 2019. Which is valid for 10 years. And we have also made a significant contribution to that roadmap. And of course, mobility is also one of the pillars of this strategy. I will move on now to my final slide, where I will give you just a few ideas of our collaboration efforts with Russia. So as I was mentioning earlier, we have an office in Moscow since 2005, which of course helps us significantly in fostering and engaging in contacts with our international partners in Russia, organizing events, helping sign agreements, organizing trips for our centers, etc. And we have long-standing ties and agreements with many scientific organizations in Russia, also a large number of universities, but of course also very prominently the Russian Academy of Sciences. And we have just in February renewed our agreement with the Russian Academy of Sciences, and we are very proud and happy to take the next steps in our collaboration. In the past, we have had joint funding calls both with RFBR and with RSF. They have led to the establishment of more than 60 joint research groups across all Helmholtz research fields in the past years. And of course, within those programs, mobility is also a very important pillar. It's mandatory, actually, to send people back and forth, especially the young people, because we really believe that the early career researchers are those responsible for being ambassadors for international collaboration in the future. Because, of course, we can only bridge the gaps between our countries, contribute to science diplomacy, and solve all those grand societal challenges that we are facing in both of our countries if we collaborate. So bringing the young people together in order for them to build relationships is a significant part of these programs. We have about 300 guest scientists on average coming from Russia to the Helmholtz centers every year. This actually makes Russia one of the top 3 sending countries, and this is a very stable number, and we would be happy, of course, to increase that number now that mobility will be possible again after we have finally tackled the pandemic, hopefully. And also other tools, for instance, summer schools are very important when it comes to stimulating mobility and contacts between researchers. So, for instance, we've had a highly successful summer school in Dubna already running since 2004. And since 2016, our Research Center for Geosciences in Potsdam, together with the Verdatsky Foundation, have also set up a series of summer schools surrounding topics in the research field of Earth and environment. So, with this, I would like to finish my presentation. I think there's a lot more to talk about and discuss, but I would like to leave it at that. Thank you for your attention. And if you want to get in touch with me, if there's any proposal you would like to make, or if you'd like to discuss collaboration possibilities, feel free to send me a message. Thank you very much for your attention. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them now. I think we still have some time and we're ahead of schedule, actually.
Thank you very much, Alexandra, for your thorough speech. And we are also waiting for you during the discussion session. But the German and in general the European view of academic exchanges would not be complete if we did not give the floor to representatives of German Academic Exchange Service, Deutsche Akademische Austauschdienst, entschuldigen. Andreas Höschen, director of the Moscow office of DAAD, is with us today. Before giving the word, I would like to mention that every participant will look first to the short review presentation of his activity. So, Andreas, you have the floor, please.
Dear Vice President Bagega, thank you very much for inviting me. It's indeed an honor and a great pleasure to be able to contribute to today's event. First, I have to apologize. I don't have a presentation for today. In my short talk, I will focus more on the policies behind our programs. You can find, of course, all detailed information on our programs on our website, www.daad.ru. Let me please start by very briefly introducing the German Academic Exchange Service, DAAD. In legal terms, the DAAD is a registered association of German higher education institutions and student bodies. It is funded by the German government and serves as a national agency for academic exchange and the internationalization of German universities. Since many decades, the Russian Federation has been a major partner country for the internationalization of German universities and research institutions. There are almost 1,000 institutional collaborations between Russian and German universities. Russian scientists participate in Germany-based large-scale research endeavors. Alexandra Rosenbach from the Helmholtz-Gemeinschaft highlighted this in her talk. Moreover, Russian institutions offer mutually beneficial research opportunities in Russia as well. Against this background, it is self-explanatory that the DAAD places special emphasis on supporting and further developing German-Russian collaboration in science and higher education. In 2019, the DAAD was able to support the mobility of around 2,000 Russian students at bachelor and master's level, nearly 400 doctoral students, and more than 700 postdocs and senior academics. At the same time, almost 1,300 German students at bachelor and master's level, 85 doctoral students, and 430 postdocs and senior academics traveled with DAAD funding in the opposite direction to Russian host universities and research institutions. In general, the DAAD supports student and scientist mobility by way of two funding approaches. One is through funding for collaborative projects. German universities seek funding from the DAAD in order to establish, for example, double-degree study courses with partner universities abroad. With project funding, financial support for the mobility of students and academic staff is part of a package of DAAD-funded measures to achieve the project objectives. The project partners take the decision on who participates in their mobility measures, while the DAAD organizes the evaluation of project results and achievements. A positive evaluation by independent experts allows for the extension of funding by the DAAD. Currently, the DAAD supports almost 200 German-Russian collaborative projects in a wide range of disciplines. The other, more traditional funding approach consists of scholarship programs. In this case, the students or scientists choose by themselves the prospective host institutions abroad, which fit their study or research plans, and submit their application directly to the DAAD. As always, with all DAAD funding, an independent committee of expert academics takes the decision on funding the individual applicant or not. At the moment, the DAAD offers scholarships for Russian students and scientists in 12 different DAAD programs. There's a variety of specific target groups from undergraduates to senior academics, and there are mobility options from 3 weeks to 3 years. Overall, our program covers all academic disciplines and subjects. Particularly, I would like to mention the scholarship programs that the DAAD funds and facilitates jointly with Russian partner institutions. With the Ministry of Higher Education and Research of the Russian Federation, the DAAD offers research grants through the program Lomonosov for natural science, mathematics, and engineering, and through the program Kant for social science and humanities. The programs are available to doctoral students, postdocs, and early career scientists enrolled or working at universities under the guidance of the Russian Ministry for Higher Education and Research. The competitive scholarships enable the grantees to conduct research at all German institutions of their choice. In addition, the DED with the autonomous St. Petersburg State University offers research grants for the same academic target group through the Mendeleev program. Through the Melnikov program, the DED with the Association of Transport Universities and co-funded by the company Siemens Russia offers grants for logistic-related research. A regional approach applies to the scholarship program Labachevsky, which the DED and the Ministry of Education of the Republic Tatarstan jointly run. It supports graduates of universities in Tatarstan to gain a postgraduate degree at a German university. Joint programs pool financial resources. Furthermore, and maybe even more importantly, they help sharpen the focus on most relevant target groups which the DED and our Russian partners wish to address in the shared interest of reciprocal internationalization. There's a lot of evidence to support the expectation that grantees of joint programs do not only further their own academic career, but also play an important role in building and strengthening institutional German-Russian academic collaborations. Our two funding approaches with scholarship programs and integrated project funding help us to strike a balance between supporting institutional strategies and encouraging the curiosity of the individual scientist. Both are, from our point of view, indispensable drivers for scientific innovation. At the end, I would like to address the current situation of German-Russian academic mobility in the wake of the pandemic. About 1 year ago, against the backdrop of sudden travel restrictions, some joint programs had to be suspended, and the AAD, with its scholarship programs, started to offer digital alternatives to physical mobility. This helped bridge the uncertainties of this unexpected period and kept the dynamics of German-Russian cooperation alive. Moreover, it has provided us with worthwhile best practice, and we will consider whether a more diversified mix of collaborative formats, including digital exchanges, could make our future post-pandemic cooperation even more effective. However, most importantly for us now, the good news is that thanks to a lot of efforts on both sides, physical academic exchange in both directions and in all our programs has resumed. At the start of this year, we were even able to announce a new mobility program in the framework of the German-Russian roadmap, the bilateral strategy for cooperation, education, research and innovation until 2028. The Young Talents program is designed for young researchers from Russia who wish to spend up to 9 months at large-scale research facilities and other designated research institutes in Germany. After the first selection round of the new program, we already have equipped 20 young Russian talents with research grants, and we will continue with the second cohort in the course of this year. With a view to the current information we are very confident the German-Russian academic mobility will soon recover to full strength, and I would like to close on this optimistic note. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Andreas. It was very interesting. And in the CIS, this Union of Independent States, in this space, a number of countries are also diligently developing programs similar to your approach. Now we have a small change in our schedule because Kazakhstan is not online, so I will give the word to the representative of China. We have a very wide cooperation between the Russian Academy of Science and the Chinese Academy of Science. This is long-lasting cooperation, and we have huge number of research projects made together. I'm talking about the Chinese Academy of Science and give the floor to Mr. Zhang Nining, Deputy Head of the International Cooperation Department, who today will give us a short introduction to the International Fellowship Initiative, PIFI, P-I-F-I, of the President of Chinese Academy of Sciences, and the experience of implementing this initiative. I would like to note that later, if Kazakhstan will be online, we'll continue with our Kazakhstan colleagues, okay? So now, please, Mr. Nining, you have the floor, please. Mr. Nining, we can hear you. You can continue. We can start talking.
Okay. Thank you. It's my pleasure to participate in today's meeting and to share with you some information and experiences about the PIFI of Chinese Academy of Sciences. Please allow me to take 1 or 2 minutes to give you an overview of CAS. This will be better to help you to understand why CAS has been continuously investing in supporting such international exchange programs. And CAS is the largest and the top science body in China, with over 100 research institutes, 4 universities, and over 70,000 employees in CAS. And CAS research covers 95% of discipline of the nature sciences. So I can say that CAS always have research teams ready for any scientific collaboration need from our global partners. So as you may know that the mega facility has always been one of the major attractions of CAS for research exchanges. CAS operates more than 3/4 of the mega facilities in China, most of which are open to the world. In this April, as you may know, the world's largest radio telescope has opened to the global users, and CAS is committed to enabling researchers worldwide to produce cutting-edge scientific discoveries at these facilities. We also, in the past 10 years, has established about 10 overseas research centers in Africa, South Africa, and Asia. These centers have opened new platforms for cooperation in biodiversity, climate change, sustainable development, astronomy, medicine, etc. And of course, this has allowed CAS to develop more direct and close cooperation with researchers in the countries where these centers are located. So CAS is one of the world-leading contributors to the science and discoveries. Over the past 5 years, the number of papers published in science and journals has increased by more than 1/3. And among those 56,000 papers, international collaborative papers are accounted for 1/3. So as you may see that CAS is increasingly dependent on the collaboration with global research partners. So against this background and need, CAS launched a program, President's International Fellowship Initiative, to promote the international exchange in 2005. And the PIFI, is pronounced as PIFI, is a specific funding program to attract international scholars to CAS for scientific exchanges, research cooperation, and study. So it is open to the scientific research personnel from all around the globe. And after 15 years, more than 15 years, continuous optimization and improvement, the PIFI now has consists of 5 main categories of programs. These 5 categories covers scholars at a different career stage, from Nobel laureates to young scholars who have just received their PhDs. And PIFI also try to accommodate as many different scholars' needs on length of stay. As you may see from these figures, from a few weeks to several years. So I may go a little bit detail about the typical categories of PIFI. First is the Distinguished Scientist Program found a short-term visit to CAS by some of the world top scientists. And we also hope that these academic leaders will be willing to accept the return visits from CAS scholars in the future. And through this kind of a mutual mobility, we hope to build a partnership between CAS and the PIFI Fellows team. And for another category, because it is a visiting scientist program, support outstanding international scholars to come to CAS for a few months of research collaboration. And this category pays a great focus on substantive collaboration to conduct actual scientific research and discoveries over a period of close collaboration between scientists from both sides. And this is one of the most common and efficient way of scientific exchange and collaboration in the world, I think. And in another hand, the postdoc researchers program was established to cultivate the future partners of CAS. We found outstanding young scientists from the world and to do the research at CAS and build a good trust and collaboration with these promising scientists at the early stage of their career. And by doing so, the PIFI applications have been rapidly increased over the past 5 years. And at one point of our funding rate was doubling close to the 35%. It's very close rate compared to the other world exchange programs. But I have to admit that we did suffer a bit due to the epidemic. But we believe that there will be a more substantial rebound after that. And over the past 10 years, PIFI has funded over 4,000 foreign scholars from more than 100 countries. Over 40% of the PIFI fellows are from Europe. So I would like to say that Europe is one of our most trustable and valuable partners in this case. And I would like to show some specific figures about Russia. And the Russian scholars plays a very important role of the PIFI program. During the past 10 years, there's more than 140 Russian scientists have visited the CAS and through the PIFI program. And of course, some of them has given us a very positive feedback. Most of the Russian PIFI fellows who visit CAS have left very fond memories. And they also express that the scientific and the technological exchange between the Russia and China is a complementary and a win-win process. So in order to make PIFI more better known and recognized by the overseas scholars, we have set up a website. There are over 2,000 PIFI scientists who have left detailed research backgrounds on the site, and they are willing to host PIFI fellows from the world. And the website also allows the overseas researchers to track their application progress and to discover the life and work at CAS campus online. So I would like to invite you to visit this website and try to find your potential Pi-Fi partners in the future. And of course, as the Pi-Fi continues, more and more Pi-Fi fellows are making great memories during their visits to CAS. We are also delighted that most of them are willing to share these feelings and experience with us. So we just put together a collection of their stories and feelings. For those who are interested in the Pi-Fi, they can download it from the website that I mentioned before, and then they can get to know the CAS and the Pi-Fi much better through the way, not only from me, from the CAS, but also from the eyes of the Pi-Fi fellows. And talking about the futures, we are considering a deep reform of Pi-Fi and planning to launch a new Pi-Fi program in 2022. The new Pi-Fi will focus more on the mobilities of scientific talent at all levels, and they devote more resources and to short-term exchanges and the visiting research efforts. We believe this will more effectively enhance the global dissemination of the new scientific ideas and the discoveries, and create more opportunities for collaboration and partnerships. So over the next 5 years, the Pi-Fi program will support more than 4,000 scholars to visit and collaborate with the CAS, And our vision is to making the Pi-Fi one of the leading exchange programs to promote global research mobility in the future. So there are still many details of this new program that need to be finalized and adjusted. So we will extend invitations to the scholar worldwide, including Russia, of course, as soon as the Pi-Fi are refined. So if you are interested in Pi-Fi or CAS, I welcome you to follow the CAS and Pi-Fi on the LinkedIn to get a latest update. And I'm happy to stay connected with everybody via email or LinkedIn. So personally, I'm pleased to see that the Russian Academy of Sciences is considering to launch a national international exchange program, which is a very unique opportunities for the CAS or scholars course, and also very unique opportunities for the scholars around the world. So in the future, we may be able to further explore the possibility of using the CAS Pi-Fi and the Russian Academy of Sciences, this kind of exchange program, to jointly fund some exchanges between the scholars from both sides, both of the countries. So thank you. That is my presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nining. We still have problems with connection in the eastern direction, so Kazakhstan is still not online. So therefore, we shall probably move to the west. And I would like to continue our conference. I would like to present the floor to our Belarusian colleague. It should be noted that every time when we talk about the Russia-Belarus cooperation, we mean that this is work within the framework of the Russia-Belarus Union State. We have a lot in common, and of course the intensity of exchange programs between Russia and Belarus should be very high. Dmitry Mazarchuk is a vice rector for scientific and methodological work of the Research Training Institute of the National Academy of Sciences of Belarus. He will tell us about his vision of the issues of the current state and prospects of international mobility. So please, Dmitry Mazarchuk, but before we will watch a short presentation of Dmitry Mazarchuk, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to take part in this conference and to present my report. Sorry, I have no presentation, and also sorry, please forgive me for my English is not so fluent, and so I'll speak Russian. Наша конференция посвящена очень актуальной теме развития форм взаимодействия ученых различных стран. Особую значимость эта тема, как только что было сказано, имеет для России и Беларуси, которые входят в состав союзного государства. Действительно, сложение наших компетенций, интеграция интеллектуальных возможностей двух государств может и должны повысить результативность исследований, направленных на решение актуальных задач развития наших стран. Казалось бы, в эпоху всеобщей цифровизации, мощного развития электронных средств коммуникации, личные контакты исследователей могут уступать место современным IT-технологиям, утратить свою актуальность. Однако практика сотрудничества российских и белорусских ученых подтверждает, что это не так. Достаточно сказать, что за последние 7 лет, не считая пресловутого 2020 года, только Национальная академия наук Беларуси, которую я представляю, ежегодно командировала в российские научные организации от 1000 до 1300 человек. Дружеское общение глаза в глаза, живые мозговые штурмы, совместное использование уникального оборудования, все эти формы получили свое развитие в рамках научных
50 joint programs, including National Academy of Sciences of Belarus was the booker of a large part of them. And our National Academy of Sciences is implementing 4 joint projects: DNA identification, feeds SG, integration SG, and joint action programs as part of the Union State activity for protection of the population and recovery after the Chernobyl incident. And at the time, we are working on 14 Union State programs, and in 2021, due to high level of finalization and high level of financing, we are working on such programs as additivity, F component, and union biomembrane. And we also develop our cooperation with the Academy of Sciences. And once the coordination fell with our Academy of Sciences, we initiated new scientific councils, including in nanotechnology, space research, virusology, biotechnologies, and biodiversity, as well as maintaining the national natural heritage, as well as issues of academic work. Over 20 years, we have been successfully working within the Interagency Academic Council, and this year, in April, it has been renamed into Inter-Academic Council for the Development of the Union State. And at the moment, our Academy of Sciences has prepared and sent to the Russian Academy of Sciences a draft roadmap for cooperation within this council, which provides for such spheres of work as information support for the interaction between academic organizations, including information exchange on the leading scientists, on the priority cooperation spheres, as well as their publications. It also provides draft concepts for projects in scientific and technological spheres which are of mutual interest. This also includes an exchange of plans for participation in exhibitions, scientific exhibitions, and other events. And last but not least, we have the Commission for Base Research and Actualization of the list of priority scientific, technological, and innovative programs and projects of the Union State for further development, approval, and implementation, and other spheres of work. Traditionally, we have good ties in base research, fundamental research, which has been sponsored by corresponding foundation. For example, in 2020, in the competition from RFBR, we have finalized 54 projects which were with the participation of RAS and Academy of Sciences in Belarus. And at the moment, we're working on 45 projects between our two academic sciences. And financing this work causes certain concerns that our joint research can be reduced to minimum. But everyone knows that without fundamental science, there will be no science at all. And we believe that joint efforts along all lines of cooperation in science should be developed, strengthened, and maybe supported with special mechanisms for support of base research, fundamental research, with the participation of our academies of sciences. At the moment, we are actively working on the development and implementation of the Russian-Belarusian project for targeted fundamental research, which would hugely broaden the interaction between the IRS and NAS of Belarus for the purposes of creating unified scientific and humanitarian space of our union state. And this year, we're also working on the perspective of creating no currency exchange of sciences. This mechanism has already proved its worth, but unfortunately has come across certain funding difficulties. So we should either go back to the old and good, well-established practices, or look for new means of providing for personal mobility. Another important form of our cooperation is exchange of young scientists, and Belarus regularly conducts schools and conferences on wide choice of topics, and we also organize students' internships, and we are open to inviting everyone interested in these events to take part in them. Last year, as a result of the Young Scientists Competition 2019 by RFBR, Belarusian Russian Academy of Sciences has implemented a number of projects, and our Academy of Sciences created the Council of Young Scientists, which is working successfully. As you can see, Belarus supports the increase of academic mobility and all sorts of cooperation in this sphere. On our part, we don't see any problems for receiving young scientists from Russia and other CIS states and countries presented at this conference. Please come to our internships, to our doctorate and PhD programs, take part in our scientific events, and take part in our joint programs and projects. We will be happy to share our experience and insights. We have accumulated huge scientific and technical expertise, including nanotechnology, digital technology, agriculture, robotics, and new materials, machinery, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, and many more. I am sure that scientific cooperation will be yet another driver for our neo-industrial economy of the Union State. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dmitry Mazarchuk. So, but in the meanwhile, another partner from the Union of Independent States appeared online. This is Kazakhstan. And I'm glad that we have a possibility to speak with Kazakhstan now. This country has been implementing the Bolshak program for several years. This is international scholarship, educational scholarship of the first president of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev. The name Bolshak means literally can be translated as future. At our conference today, there is an advisor of the president of the Center for International Program of Kazakhstan, Gulzhanat Gafu, who will present us the report Bolshak 2021 New Opportunities. Before talking, a short profile of Gulzhanat Gafu, please.
presentation, right? I'm Guljanat Gafo. I'm the advisor to the president of the Center for International Programs, which is the sole administrator of this Bolshak program, which started really like 28 years ago in 1993. And over these 28 years, it has proved to be one of the most successful really programs in training specialists for the country. So over these years, more than 14,000 specialists been trained. The scholarship was awarded, and now more than 11,000 alumni work for Kazakhstan and abroad. Recently, we did conducted a first Bolshak impact report, and it showed that each alumni in his place, both globally and locally, is making a huge contribution. So so as you can see, the history of the program is that it was launched in 1993. It is really a program for, can be said as one of the programs for intended for internationalization of the education, and also as a program for academic mobility, but mostly for young and brightest Kazakhstanis. So it was launched in 1993 with for few talented young people from Kazakhstan. Since 2005, the number of scholarship has been increased up to 3,000 students studying per year in top leading universities abroad. Since 2008, I think, the undergraduate program, the funding of undergraduate programs has been stopped. And since then, only the program now funds only master and PhD programs, along with professional internship programs for anyone who wants to upgrade professionally. In 2020, it has gone, I would say, significant modernization and reform of the program. The recruitment process has been scrutinized and reconsidered. The list of recommended universities that is established annually has been decreased up to 138, which previously was we had more than 500 universities recommended to study abroad. Since last year, it has been decreased, like for the universities which are in the top 100 positions in one of those major university league tables, like US, Times Higher Education, and the Shanghai. So what does the scholarship cover? It generally covers everything, starting from tuition, accommodation, tickets, visa, medical insurance, and also educational materials, meaning the books or anything else the student needs per year. So we try to and promote really the equal opportunities for all. So that's for anyone in Kazakhstan who is eligible, who have at this stage from 2020, the applicants really need to have an unconditional offer from the top leading universities, and they can then apply for the funding for Bolshak. The admission procedure, it's a 3-stage procedure. In the first instance, the applicants need to go through a complex testing of the aptitude. Once this is a verbal and the numerical testing, once they have gone through that, if they have passed, they will have to have an interview with an independent expert committee. And then we have a awarding body, which is chaired by the state secretary and with various members of that body. They will then recommend for awarding of the scholarship or decline. Each year we have 550 scholarship available for master, PhD, and internship. This year we have started the application process from May the 4th, which will run until October the 28th. And the awarding will be in 3 rounds in June, August, and November. This is to consider the different starting points of the studies. Like some of them will start, say, the US will start in August, so we have to award the scholarship before they can start their studies. The requirements is that, as I said, is an unconditional. They need to have an unconditional offer from the university, which is in the list of our recommended universities. Previously, we had to approve this list each year due to those rankings to get updated. But from this year, we have decided that we will have it for 3 years to let the applicants to plan their application and studies ahead. They need to have a required level of a Kazakh language knowledge, and also if we don't really require IELTS, because they will already bring us their unconditional offer, which means that the university have already accepted them. So the two this year recommended universities are from top 250 positions from these 3 league tables, and which made the university a little bit more than last year. Like last year we had only 138. This year we have 270 universities recommended from 27 countries. But I have to mention that the leaders, as usual, is the US, UK among the applicants. So we really want to have much more collaboration with the other countries who are in this list. Another very important list is that the Polshak is intended to prepare specialists for the country in priority areas that is needed for Kazakhstan, really. So these are the priority areas that we train the specialists, like innovations and new technologies, industrial engineering, education, social science, creative industry. This is the new one for this year. Natural sciences and medicine. This is scrutinized each year, and we do get the requests from the official organizations, central institutions in the country, who then give us their request for the specialists that they need. So then we do create this list of prioritized specialties. So this is generally how many scholarship is given. As you can see, there are more numbers are given to master students. For PhD, we have 60 scholarship, and internship is a professional and scientific internship up to 1 year. We have 110 scholarships available. One of the significant, I would say, highlights of this year is that we, as per the president's order, a new pathway for the internship has been created, which is called internship for 500 scientists in leading scientific centers of the world per year. So we really, because Kazakhstan is focused on developing its research, productivity and intensity, and that is why we really want our researchers to have kind of an internship in the leading universities and laboratories and research centers all over the world. So from this year, we will be sending 500 more scholarships available for the faculty and research staff from institutions, research institutions and universities. The CIP, what is specific with the Center for International Programs, which is CIP, is that it deals also with other projects, one of which is the promotion of internationalization of higher education in Kazakhstan. We do serve as kind of a bridge between the universities abroad and our local universities, and we try to help them to build collaboration with between them. So we're trying now to work on establishing branch campuses. We do help our universities to get in touch with the universities in our list, for example, to set up programs like joint programs, academic programs, or maybe some joint research projects. We also have a program which is called Go Nomads, which is for foreign volunteers to come and teach maybe at the universities in Kazakhstan. So this is at the expense of the universities, the local universities. So that can be, for example, students, like senior students who want to have some kind of volunteering experience, so they can get in touch with us, and we do help them to come to Kazakhstan, to the universities here, and have maybe from 3 months up to 1 year a volunteering experience of teaching, maybe assistantship in the universities. The Center for International Programs works with the Ministry of Education in arranging education fairs abroad within the framework of Kazakhstan education abroad, really. This is a study. Another very important area is intergovernmental grants, which is set up in the agreement between Kazakhstan and other countries, where we generally serve as an administrator, really, and recruit this Kazakhstani students who want to go on that intergovernmental grants to study. For example, we have 10 active grants, like in Hungary, China, Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Vietnam, Poland, Slovakia, Belarus, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. And at this stage, Kazakhstan is really interested in exploring more opportunities for setting up such intergovernmental academic cooperation with more countries. So generally, this is it. This is the contacts. We are active on all of the major social media. You can get more information there. Yeah, thank you. If you have questions, I'm really ready to answer.
Guljanat, thank you very much. Again, it was a very informative talk. I would like to know that the second part of the meeting will be moderated by Irina Kuklina, and I will join you later during the discussion session. And Irina, it's now your turn to organize everything, to integrate the speakers, please.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to move further for our discussion. To give the floor to our neighbor country, without whom the palette of various options for the academic mobility will be incomplete. I'm speaking about Finland, and today we have Sari Eriksson, with us Counselor for Higher Education and Science at the Embassy of Finland in Moscow. Sari, before giving you the floor, let me show the profile and brief information about you on the slide.
Hello, dear colleagues. Can you hear me now? I'm just trying to turn on my presentation. I hope you can see well, and I hope you can hear me well as well. Thank you, Verena, and thank you, colleagues, for very inspiring speeches before. It's my pleasure to be here today and give a short presentation from the Finnish side as well. So my name is Sari Eriksson. I'm a Counselor of Education and Higher Education and Science here at the Finnish Embassy. I'm presenting the Embassy of Finland, but I work for the Ministry of Education in Finland. It was 3 years ago the Ministry of Education in Finland decided to start a new initiative to promote the internationalization of science. And since 3 years ago, we have had this kind of external experts working around the world to promote, increase, and support the internationalization of the Finnish science. I can say that Finland has a clear goals for internationalization of science, and mobility and the research exchange is obviously a crucial part of that. Science is international, and international publishing and collaboration has been an integral part of the practices of most disciplines. In the last decades, however, concerns have arisen that the research community operating in Finland was not enough international, and that was identified as a weakness of the Finnish sciences. Since then, there has been changes, structural changes, to internationalize the science community more. And as the result of this, we can say that now the share of international researchers has almost doubled in few years, and to about 20% at the moment. And also the share of foreigners has increased, the foreign researchers, and especially those who are at the lowest level of research career. An increasing number of students have come to Finland as well to complete their doctoral studies and degrees. And I think that's also important when we are discussing about the mobility as we do it today. In Finland, Finland's competitiveness and well-being are built on competence, research, and innovation. And for that reason, the research and development and innovation roadmap was prepared 2020 to promote the achievement of these goals and resulting sustainable growth, as well as to create an operating environment to encourage both Finnish and foreign companies to invest in research and development and innovation activities in Finland. The pandemic has shown that the social sciences and humanities play an important role in foreseeing future developments and in understanding the actions of individuals and population groups, so that we can better understand and foresee the actions of individuals and population. In Finland, the diversity of science is valued, and for example, there are no different priorities for science mobility in different fields of sciences. About the financing of the science in Finland, there are 3.4 billion euros are spent in research and development yearly in Finland, and approximately 66% of that comes from the private sector. And there is ambitious plans to increase to rise to 4% of GDP by the 2030. And achieving these goals would require approximately 200 million euros increase every year for this science budget. So there is we can see that there is more and more focus coming on the science in Finland. About the Academy of Finland. The Academy of Finland is a governmental funding body for scientific research in Finland. The building is based in Finland, the headquarters of the Academy of Finland. And yearly, the Academy administers over 260 million euros to Finnish research activities. It's the main financing organization in Finnish for governmental organization for Finnish sciences. And there are over 5,000 researchers are working on projects supported by the Academy of Finland. And the Academy functions as a funding body only, and it's not the research organization. So there is no research done by the Academy of Finland. However, there are personnel funded by the Academy can use the title referring to, for example, the academic professors, and the president of the Academy of Finland is today we have Heikki Mannila, the picture we can see here. I mentioned earlier that there are no priorities in research as such, but the Academy of Finland, they have this kind of flagship program, and the Academy of Finland's flagship program is an instrument to support high quality research and increase social impact emerging from the research. It's a mix of close cooperation with business and society, adaptability, and a strong commitment from host organizations. And also international collaboration is an integral part of these flagship programs. And especially there is a lot of cooperation going with the US partners, but also there is willingness to do more international cooperation with other countries and other organizations as well inside these flagship programs. The Academy of Finland has an agreement on funding cooperation with the Russian Academy of Science since 1993. And under this agreement, the Academy of Finland finances mobility in both directions so that the Finnish researchers can come to do research in Russia, and also the Russian researchers are doing research in Finland. This kind of bilateral agreement the Academy of Finland has with the several countries, and those are India, Japan, China, Germany, Taiwan, and Russia. The most of this mobility funding is going for the research between the China and Finland, and the Russia is the second one. So it's a very important player here for the Academy of Finland. But at the same time, there is a debate going on how this kind of bilateral mobility, what is the future for that? Should there be more multilateral mobility? For instance, that the mobility funding is not only between two countries, that it would be there would be more networks and more cooperation with different partners. So, for instance, in Finland, there is discussion going on. We have those partner countries, how we could move this funding instrument more on the network direction so that the researchers can use all of these facilities and in different countries, and how this could happen. So this is the current discussion that we are having now. If we are looking at the numbers of the mobilities between Russia and Finland, in 2019 there were totally 147 mobility applications, and 61 of those were related to Russia. 24 applicants were willing to do research in Russia, and there were 37 research projects for those researchers who were willing to conduct the research in Finland. Mainly those research areas where we can see that there is this a need for mobility are biosciences, environment sciences, health research, social sciences, natural sciences, and engineering. And the next call is going to be in autumn 21. It's opening in September, and on that call, there are going to be this bilateral calls between those countries I mentioned already: Japan, Taiwan, Russia, and Germany. And there are those. And those mobility grants are for Finnish researchers to going to different countries, and also for those researchers coming to Finland. And those bilateral mobility grants, they are personal grants, and the duration of the grant may be between 7 days till 360 days during the funding period of 24 months. And also those mobility grants, there might be several visits, so it doesn't mean that those visits are only one period. So there can be several visits to conduct research in different countries and organizations. And more information about those bilateral mobility calls can be found from the website of the Academy. And of course, the impact of the corona pandemic, the crisis we are still living in. We can see that during the last year, as I was also showing the numbers from the previous years, the physical mobility has decreased, but there is a strong belief that in future there is need to increase those numbers for the physical mobility. But at the same time, there is possibilities from the virtual mobility, and those possibilities should be taken in account very carefully and would be very useful for researchers as well. And also the Academy Finland is also looking at those goals and doing some reforms for taking account this pandemic. So there would be more possibilities also of virtual mobility. And an additional of those founding instruments that the Academy of Finland has, there are also different instruments by the universities in Finland, and also the Finnish National Agency of Education has a Team Finland knowledge program, and there is also a part for the mobility between the doctoral students, early career researchers, and also professors inside of that program. But this program is mainly between the institutions of higher education, also the research institutions. And also, I wanted to mention that the mobility, not only this bilateral mobility program, it's not the only mobility programs that the Academy of Finland is supporting, that there is mainly in all projects, for example, those inside of those flagship programs, the mobility is a very crucial part of that. So it's naturally included in all research programs that the Academy of Finland is supporting. Thank you very much. I will finish here, and I will be very happy to be part of the panel after all presentation. Thank you very much.
I was impressed by the new format of moving from bilateral mobility to multilateral mobility. It will be great to learn about this during the discussion. And thank you for the announcement of the new call that you are going to have. Among our participants, there are also representatives of organizations that remember well the formats of our exchange programs organized by the USSR Academy of Sciences. Moreover, the next participants represent the Academy of Sciences, which coordinates the works of its institutes. I'm talking about the Austrian Academy of Sciences. We can safely say that in the experience of this academy, there are centuries of successful academic mobility programs. I am pleased to give the floor to Berhard Plunger,
Рада передать слово
head of the International
Берхарду
Relations
Плунгеру.
Department of the Austrian Academy of Sciences,
Он возглавляет
who will present today the
Департамент международного
report on the
сотрудничества
bilateral cooperation
Австрийской
mobility
академии
program
наук и
program scheme.
представит свой доклад
And
о
prior to
программах
giving you the
академической
floor,
мобильности. Прежде
let
чем
us
передать
have a
слово,
look at the profile.
Great. So, hello everybody. I'm very happy and grateful to Vice President Balega and that he invited the Austrian Academy of Sciences to this very interesting morning session regarding the international cooperation. My name is Bernhard Plunger. I'm head of the International Relations Department of the Austrian Academy of Sciences. And I'm, of course, also specifically grateful to Olga Glukovtseva, who is my dear colleague in Moscow, and we were in contact in advance. I'm really happy and proud and honored to participate with in this high-level group of colleagues who are, in my impression, really very close to the topic of international cooperation. I will give you a short introduction on the Austrian Academy of Sciences, and then try to go a little bit more into detail regarding some aspects of international academic mobility. And though I'm one of the last speakers in session, please allow me maybe to raise also some issues that could be then later on also be part of the discussion, and maybe let some questions open. The Austrian Academy of Sciences and the Russian Academy of Sciences are quite similar. Both were, some of you might know, who are interested in history, were proposed by Leibniz. And even though he was not at the beginning of the 18th century, and although he was not successful in Vienna, he was successful in Russia. And the roots of the Russian Academy of Sciences go back to 1724, if I remember correctly. And we are proud that our first contacts, official contacts, I would say, date back already to the 1970s, so almost 50 years ago. And that is a basis for cooperation that is very, very important and also interesting. Short introduction on the Academy. We are a learned society and research performing organization. So we have about 760 members at the Academy and additional around 1,800 researchers at the Academy working in our 25 research institutes. More than 800 are from abroad, so roughly 45% or so. And we are happy to have around 80 different nations under the umbrella of the Austrian Academy of Sciences. One of the backbones of our cooperation, the bilateral cooperation, as we call it, with more than 50 countries around the world, including Russia or China, who are also present here at that conference. And one topic I will go into detail a little bit later on is a mobility program that we implemented several years ago. It was in 2014 when we first started with this so-called Joint Excellence in Science and Humanities scheme, which supports young scientists from more than 50 focus countries around the world. I mentioned the 25 research institutes with these 1,800 colleagues. We are working in many fields, from the natural sciences, medicine, to social sciences and the humanities. The Austrian Academy of Sciences is a main player in the field of science community in Austria. But of course, we do also have a very strong university sector in our country. We try to promote talents with stipend and fellowship programs such as the Joint Excellence for Science and Humanities program, CESH. Of course, we try to be part of the science diplomacy sector, as we call it now, in order to be a main player also in the connection between policy and science. The cooperations we typically have are not only bilateral with partner academies around the world, but also regarding international scientific organizations like the Eurofusion program or CERN in Geneva, or other research programs like ESRF or the IL, which cooperation in Grenoble. The cooperations are mainly triggered by my department, and besides the bilateral agreements, I now go more into detail to the Joint Excellence Program I already mentioned several times. So we support postdoc colleagues who did their PhD not later than 10 years ago. We implemented an incoming and an outgoing scheme where the colleagues who apply have the possibility to ask for projects or for mobility stays in Austria or abroad between 1 and 6 months. So more a short-term program. We support the mobility costs. So that means we support accommodation and subsistence costs, and of course also travel and visa costs if they are needed, with a flat rate of 2,700 euros per month. in the years since 2014, we had more than 400 applications. So that means we have at the moment around 100 applications per year, and something like 40 to 45% approval. So altogether, we are happy to, meanwhile, supported 150 such projects over the last couple of years, roughly 6 to 7 years. From Russia, and this might be interesting for the colleagues at the Russian Academy of Sciences, we had 14 applications altogether and 5 approvals, so a success rate around 30%. If we compare the size of the countries, so especially, of course, the size of Russia in comparison to Austria, I guess that there is still some additional opportunities available. Maybe one point, or exactly 3 points that I really like to address at that point, and that might be interesting then also for the discussion later on, is that we are doing an incoming and an outgoing scheme, but we have very different success rates and also application numbers. So many more want to come to Austria. Many more colleagues want to come to Austria than to want to go abroad. Of course, it's somehow clear Austria has only around 9 million inhabitants in comparison to the rest of the world, which are 9 billion people. So it's clear that more want to come than to go, because there are more outside of Austria. But on the other hand side, we suffer from that situation in all countries in Europe. It might be interesting also to hear some approaches of the colleagues from the other European countries who are participating today, how their experiences are in that matter. Then there is also always the question of brain gain and brain drain that we all know. So we try to overcome that it has to be clear when we offer CESH stipends that the colleagues come to Austria, but they have to go back. And it's the idea that we exchange ideas, we exchange knowledge about what is going on in the partnering country, and to have or to initiate something like a brain circulation, as we call it. And here it's maybe also interesting to hear a little bit from all of you how you handle that question. And the third point that I wanted to raise, which might be interesting for all of us, is what is the impact of such a program? So what happens afterwards? And that question is also, I think, very relevant. We offer programs, and we heard a lot of them, and they are very interesting, and with very different approaches over the last 2 or 3 hours. But how can we measure the impact that is, or the outcome of such a project? Is it only a common publication? Is there a networking effect, and so on? And that might be some questions that could be interesting for all of us. So I stop at that point. I show you some nice pictures from Vienna. I'm sitting here and look out the window. It's perfectly nice weather. Hopefully, when the pandemic crisis lies behind us, think about coming to Vienna. Or if you have further questions, don't hesitate to contact me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion we will have later on. Thank you.
For your brilliant presentation. We'll certainly consider your proposal in the working group on the development of Russian programs for international scientific mobility, especially your comment about the impact, how to measure and how to look at this. And also your presentation brought a very important point, how to match the program that Russia is developing now with the programs of our partner countries, so that we can look at jointly as a puzzle and work together. And as you mentioned in a presentation, that it will be interesting to look at the other European experience. We are now moving to our another strong international academic exchange partner in Europe, which is the United Kingdom. It should be noted that the next participant of our meeting is as we might say, a recurring speaker at international events of the Russian Academy of Sciences, which we are of course very happy about and very grateful. I now give the floor to Karen Mondal, Chief International Science Envoy at the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office of Great Britain. Professor Mondal will present a British perspective on academic mobility of scientists. And before giving you the floor, as usual, we will just see the profile on the screen.
Dear colleagues, it's a great pleasure to join you today at this exciting conference dedicated to international academic scientific mobility. I have always been an international scientist, and by that mark, an international science diplomat. I have colleagues with whom I collaborate around with the world, and also in Russia. Many of my colleagues around the world with whom I collaborate, I've not actually met in person, and so it's been very interesting working in this COVID crisis over the last year and seeing how that has changed some of our working practices, and indeed how some of the innovations that we've been able to bring to the fore to really boost our international collaboration have relied on our technology as we are speaking to one another today. I'd like to thank the Russian Academy of Sciences for this exciting invitation and the opportunity to share the UK perspective. For the UK, international academic mobility is hugely important for driving forward practical scientific collaborations and continuous knowledge exchange across the international research community, as well as building trust and person-to-person and institution-to-institution friendships, which take us through some of the hardest times, as we've seen in this last year of global pandemic. COVID has changed so many things in our lives, both personally and professionally, and one of those is how international partners, not least of all scientific communities, engage with one another. We have adapted to those challenges, we've found new ways to speak to one another, and we've found new ways to share that collaboration at an unprecedented pace. That, for me, is what has stood out as I've stood in my science advisory to government role in the UK. The speed of exchange of information, the importance of collaboration, working across different ecosystems. Our international journals that publish peer-reviewed research have agreed to open COVID research and speed up the peer review process so that academics can actually access that information more quickly. And we've seen universities, research institutes, industry and innovation and engineering really mobilize together internationally to try to tackle this. We've also seen this at the political and the policy level, and some of the financial instruments that have enabled that to happen. And we need, in fact, to do more and to help struggling countries as we go through the coming months. I was very fortunate in March to be able to visit Russia, but I did that as a remote visit. It was very exciting to meet Professor Belega and colleagues from the Russian Academy of Sciences, and I think the virtual visit felt almost like a physical visit. I did visit Russia back in 2019 in person, so I was sorry not to be able to come in person this March, but actually the collaboration and the interactions that we had, I think were as warm, if not as scenic as would have happened in person. And so I think we can use technology to increase that collaboration as we go through these difficult times and start to open up the world again. The UK has a range of mechanisms and initiatives in place to support academic mobility and to ensure our scientific community is delivering cutting-edge research in close cooperation with scientific partners and institutions around the globe. All of our universities have international strategies and are very good at engaging with their international partners around the world at institution level. And of course, we we have our learned academies like the Royal Society and our professional bodies like the Institute of Physics, Royal Society of Chemistry, and many other learned bodies that also have very strong international profiles and help their professional and learned communities connect with one another around the world. In terms of the UK's perspective in terms of infrastructure, the Global Talent Route, which permits people who've achieved a selection of prestigious awards in their field, for example, the Nobel Prize or an Oscar, to automatically qualify for visas. This is something that it actually helps that mobility. So we understand that there is practicalities. It's great for people to collaborate. It's wonderful to do that remotely. But of course, traveling and moving around the world needs enabling factors. That's where government can help. And we recently launched the Global Talent Visa, which is to work closely with the scientific community to further develop that route so that we can actually encourage the brain circulation, as my colleague Bernard there mentioned in his previous talk, to actually help talent to move around the world in a way that's not inhibited by the difficulties of things like visas. The other sorts of mechanisms that stand out for me, particularly in developing future leaders. So obviously we want to develop our young talent, and the collaborations that we have when we are young scholars shape the way we live our lives. It shapes the way we develop our careers, and it shapes the way we may lead in our careers in the future when we go back to our home countries or we go on maybe to third countries. And the Achieveling Scholarship Programme is a programme that has been running in the UK for many, many years now. It selects scholars on a competitive basis based on their potential to make a positive and meaningful difference in their own communities. They undertake full-time master's degrees in any subject in a UK university of their choice, and then they return to their home countries. And in the last 5 years, over 100 Russian scholars have received Achieveling Awards. Another example that the UK has recently launched is the Turing Scheme. This is backed by an initial £110 million. This is truly a global programme in which every country in the world is eligible to partner with UK universities, schools and colleges. So it reaches across our entire education and research landscape. And because international collaboration is so important, the UK is committed to making the UK one of the most attractive destinations in the world for scientists, researchers and innovators. We have a very diverse and multicultural and international country as we stand, and we're looking to increase that because we understand the importance of being a global player. And really thanks to colleagues in the British Embassy in Moscow who've been supporting scientific knowledge exchange between the UK and Russian research communities across a range of themes of global importance. And this really is the key. It's great for scientists for us to have the privilege to work with international collaborators. But really the bigger questions here, as we've heard from many speakers eloquently say on the calls today, are the global challenges that we have to address together. These global challenges are so immense that we cannot tackle them as one nation. Individual countries cannot tackle the challenges at the scale, both in terms of the challenges that we are yet to discover the solutions to, both in terms of the funding and the globally fragile connected systems and the sorts of solutions that we need to bring to bear to those. All of those need international collaborations. We've also heard a wonderful mention of, again, enabling our young people and helping through education. We've heard about climate change, and we've also heard about the Arctic. We have a very nice collaboration between the UK and Russia through our Arctic scientists. This is both in terms of research programs and also in terms of international exchange of students. We've helped collaborators out in universities in Russia, particularly out in Siberia, to run student education programs, and we've been exchanging ideas between our research groups and our educators. One set of tools that we've used to enable this is the UK-Russia Arctic Bursaries Programme. This was in 2019 to 2020, and it provided practical bursaries of up to £7,000 to support and further develop medium and long-term research links, two-way scientific mobility. And the two-way is really important there, to build practical collaborations between UK-based and Russian researchers working in the Russian Arctic and High North. The UK-Canada Arctic Bursaries programmes enabled participation by UK-based researchers in over 40 Canadian-led projects in the Canadian Arctic and High North. And then those collaborations start to work together in a multilateral environment. And that's also really, really, really important, so that those young scientific leaders start to find their collaborators of the future and produce those strong and stable collaborative networks that will tackle some of these big global challenges. Of course, as I've mentioned with COVID, global health challenges really are at the forefront of every country's mind. And Russia and the UK are no different in that respect. We have seen, of course, the huge impact of this pandemic on all of our countries, on our families, on our lives, and in some cases on our economies. And back in 2018, there was a UK-Russia launch of the UK-Russia Association of Young Medics. This was a very inspiring project between Cambridge University and Sessionov Medical University, which enabled a two-way exchange for Russian and British medical students and young researchers. And this helped them to gain excellent experience, and it positively influenced their career paths. So that's another way that we can work internationally collaboratively, not just at the research frontiers, but actually sharing best practice, sharing systems thinking, and helping one another to take the knowledge that we have in our countries to that higher level, so that shared practice actually has impact. And then to finish with, I think building those trusted partnerships between our countries is incredibly important. At times of political difficulty, it's often our science diplomacy, which is where we keep our friendships, where we build trust between our countries, and we can put those really practical financial mechanisms on the table. We can help our policy teams to develop the mechanisms to help our scientists and our young academics travel to one another's countries or to engage bilaterally remotely. And ultimately, as we've heard before, to capture the impact of that, we can see that provides the stability that we need in terms of our thinking around the world. It helps us to horizon scan for future crisis, and it helps us to protect sustainable environments. I'm thinking from the deep ocean seabeds to outer space and to other planets. And of course, that would be something I would mention as an astrophysicist. I think in terms of the universe as a very large place. It's 14.9 billion years old, and we are a tiny, tiny planet in the global picture. And so I think, to be able to collaborate internationally as a species, we're able to conceptualize a universe, we're able to design and invent the engineering and the technology to study that universe, and we've discovered the mathematics and the physical laws that predict how that universe behaves. So I think together we must be able to collaborate, find the instruments that help our researchers and our innovators work together to solve some of the challenges that face us and our planet. Thank you.
For your presentation. I think it will be correct, as you said, to intensify the practice of academic contact between our countries and make a special focus on the young scientists, on students, and also, as you mentioned about the regions, it will be great to make sure that our regions will be heavily involved. And I was very impressed by your strengthening the point of the both ways mobility. I think sometimes we forget about that, and this is a great importance to have this both ways. Allow me once again, thank you for the attention you give to the projects of the Russian Academy of Sciences. We know that your schedule today does not permit you to spend the entire session with us, and we will continue work of the session together with the representatives of the British Embassy in Russia. We'll be happy to do so. And
thank you very much, and wish you all the best for your session. I have a couple of minutes for questions, but I didn't want to interrupt the session, so I'm very happy to let you carry on.
Thank you. Thank you. We will definitely share all the presentation. I think we had a great presentations today, and we'll also share with the questions, and we'll be in touch, and definitely with your colleagues at the British Embassy. Thank you. At the end of this part of our conference, I give the floor to one of the members of the working group on the development of the International Academic Mobility Program for researchers, Deputy Head of the International Cooperation Department of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Olga Gluchovtseva. She will present our experience in implementing academic exchange programs and talk about new prospects, and also talk about the project, how the academic mobility new program in Russia can look like. Olga, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, we are pleased to present you the experience that the Russian Academy of Sciences has in organizing exchange programs and the developments that will soon be implemented in the Russian International Academy Mobility Program. As academician, Alexander Sergeyev, president of the Russian Academy of Science, said in his welcoming remarks, this year a new academic mobility program for scientists will be introduced to the general public. In fact, it was only in 2013 when the Russian Academy of Sciences, the Russian Academy of Medical Sciences, and the Russian Academy of Agricultural Sciences were formed that our country got such a program. Today we are discussing both outbound and inbound academic mobility for researchers. Academic mobility in the Russian academic school began actually when the academic school itself was founded. From the time of Peter the Great, the first Russian citizens were sent abroad to study, and later Russia itself helped many countries to train specialists. Early in the life of the Soviet Union, foreign students got the same rights as the Russian students, which contributed to the wide involvement of foreign nationals in Russian higher education and scientific organizations. And of course, the development of our country's international cooperation reached its most serious scope and soared to new heights in the years after World War II. This was a new stage in the history of the international exchange of scientists, and a large number of scientific organizations and universities appeared which accepted foreign nationals for studies and internships. By the mid-1980s, the USSR ranked second in terms of the number of foreign nationals studied on its territory, and the USSR was bettered only by the United States. And Soviet research facilities graduated over 20,000 foreign candidates of sciences, and the main role was played by the Academy of Sciences of the by the USSR, and changes in the political situation in our country caused by the collapse of the USSR resulted in serious changes in the system of training specialists for foreign countries and the implementation of academic mobility issues for both foreign and Russian citizens. And unfortunately, in recent years, the term academic mobility in the Russian Federation has often been used to mean the issue of educational mobility for students. But in our work, however, we talk about the need to provide effective models for the mobility of researchers, including young scientists and postdocs. Moreover, research materials in Russia mainly deal with the mobility of students and sometimes of university teaching staff. We should cover not only the university staff, but also scientific organizations, and in some cases, it is primarily academic organizations. And here all the participants of today's conference are like-minded people. And we cannot say that the Russian Ministry of Science and Higher Education does not make efforts to solve the issues of academic mobility of researchers, but it is often a response to the proposals from our foreign partners. But foreign partners themselves are waiting for proposals from us as well. Mobility issues are always a two-way street, and in our country, universities themselves organize mobility programs for researchers, and only a small part of scientific organizations have such programs. We will partly fill the existing gap and offer a program that will take into account the interests of both Russian and foreign researchers who are interested in working together with Russian colleagues. The new program should promote the sustainable development and the competitiveness of the Russian science in the global scientific and educational space through creating of international alliances, including international and inter-institutional, as well as the development of networking and academic mobility. The target group of this program will be master students, postgraduate students, medical residents, PhD candidates, researchers, and specialists of scientific organizations, as well as educational organizations of higher education. In fact, the program will ensure the development of international academic mobility in Russia to organize joint research, network projects and programs, exchange scientific ideas and best practices in order to improve the competence of scientists from our country, as well as scientists from foreign countries participating in the activities of the program. We are confident that together with our foreign partners, we will be able to ensure the participation of the Russian scientists in research activities abroad, including by facilitating Russian scientists' access to unique foreign scientific infrastructure facilities, such as mega science facilities and installations, as well as unique scientific collections and databases. We'll promote the involvement of foreign scientists in research and educational activities carried out by the Russian scientific organizations and educational organizations of higher education, including using the Russian scientific infrastructure. We have provided for bilateral and multilateral exchanges under the program, including equivalent exchanges. That is, when foreign scientists come to Russia, live here and work here at the expense of the host country, and vice versa, when Russian scientists come to foreign countries under the same standards. Of course, such type of exchange programs should be discussed in a bilateral format with our partners. There is a special part of the program which is devoted to organizing internships and advanced training for Russian researchers abroad and foreign researchers in the Russian Federation. In addition to that, the Russian Academy of Sciences will promote the participation of Russian researchers in the activities of international organizations and events of an interstate and intergovernmental nature. This is true for support for national committees of international scientific organizations. We need to ensure the support for activities of international research teams and scientific units on the basis of Russian and foreign scientific and educational structures. The program provides for different formats of work. For example, it is, I'm referring to ensuring the participation of the Russian researchers in expert activities abroad, including in events of an interstate and intergovernmental nature, or ensuring the participation of Russian researchers in scientific conferences, symposia, seminars, and other scientific events abroad, in events to promote and popularize the results of scientific activity. We will promote the participation of Russian scientists as trainees in international scientific schools abroad and of foreign researchers in such projects in Russia. The program provides support for Russian scientists who travel abroad to give lectures and for foreign scientists who come to the Russian Federation to give lectures, including as part of international scientific schools. We will provide for short and long-term internships and advanced training programs for Russian researchers abroad and foreign researchers in Russia. As I mentioned earlier, we intend to organize short and long-term trips of Russian scientists abroad to conduct scientific research and ensure access to unique scientific resources, equipment in unique collections, and so on, including the participation in expeditions and field research. And of course, it's very important to support the participation of the Russian specialists in the work of international scientific organizations, centers of excellence, and centers for international scientific and technical cooperation. Evidently, the question of funding of such programs is quite acute, and we assume that we will attract the financing and work with the funds of development institutes, state and private corporations. Dear colleagues, this program is being developed not only by the Russian Academy of Sciences. Experts from the country's scientific organizations and universities, ministries and departments are involved. And my colleague, head of International Cooperation Department, Sergei Malenko, is the head of the program development team. We will be glad to receive additional suggestions and the constructive criticism of our developments. And beyond debate, we invite all the stakeholders, all the parties concerned to cooperate. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Olga. That was a great presentation about the program that is going to be launched in Russia. I think you set up the floor to some points of discussion. Let me propose colleagues to do the following. I would recommend some of the questions that we can address, and I'll be happy to give the floor to any of the speakers. Let me start with the following question. What problems do the organizers of academic mobility face when working with Russia? What do we need to pay attention to? Is there anything that we can change, from your opinion? And what should be considered when we have the bilateral programs so that they can match each other? I know that there are some points which already was mentioned in this by Professor Han Malek. It was also mentioned by our Austrian colleague, by Bernhard. I propose that you start the discussion with that. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, why not?
Yeah?
Yes, why not?
Please
thank you for the invitation to start the discussion. I mean, it's always very hard to give advice to colleagues or to accept advice on the other hand side. Yeah. So one of the really central issues I would like to raise once more is the question of what impact does a exchange program, or maybe even any measure we take in the field of internationalization, have in our home country and in the partnering country. Sometimes I had the impression over the last couple of years that we are forced by various framework conditions, I would like to say it like that, to distribute reports on numbers of people who participated, on numbers of publications issued, and so on. But it is not something where you really get a glimpse on what is happening in on a sustained level of continuity. And I would like to just bring that in. Maybe we do not have an answer on that question, but maybe we have the one or the other approach. So what we do at the Austrian Academy, and I come back to the CESH program I introduced in my talk, is to raise the issue of what will be the impact of the proposed project to the partnering countries. So to Austria and Russia as an example, but also to other focus countries we do have. So we asked that already in the application. Yeah. So we have two or three questions to the applicant and also to the host of the applicant, what they expect as an impact or an outcome of this proposed project. And then, of course, we also ask the peer reviewers to answer that question, whether this is, or to answer the question whether the ideas the applicant and the host give is somehow somehow makes sense, yeah, and whether the outcome or the impact they suggest will come true. Very difficult question, or let's say the other way around. Easy question, but difficult answer. I leave it at that point. Thanks.
Thank you, Bernhard. I think that's a great point. Professor Hanmalek, would you like to add to this point?
Yes, I would like to. I'm sorry, I'm focused on long stay visits. When we established an international lab, it's often the end point, I would say, of a very long process. There's been collaboration sometimes for many, many years, and more structured collaboration. And I think that establishing joint international labs in the host country is a very good way, as it serves as a platform and a catalyst for collaborations, because people stay for longer times. They both know the communities. There are Russian scientists working with scientists from France. So both of them know their community and can network better than just visitors that come for 2 or 3 months. And what's happening, at least for our case, as you know, and I didn't explain, but the permanent scientists in France are all civil servants. So there are certain laws applying to civil servants. And one of them is when they're sent abroad was, if that's accepted, they're sent abroad with their salary and with indemnity. So that means they're 100% at the moment paid by France. What's happening if we cannot find a way to get the correct visa for them is we will close all our established international joint labs, because there's no way at the moment we can send our civil servants abroad and they receive, I would say, a salary at the same time, as a salary from France. So I think it's really, it would be a loss for both countries. And I would say, well, you may ask, and I'm going to, you didn't ask a question, nobody asked a question, but you might wonder why it worked like that for many years, because I think the problem is not new. It's not something that just happened after coronavirus or whatever. It's the difference is that we're getting more and more, I would say, focused on the value it brings back to the country, and the rules and the processes and the procedures also are getting stricter. So some of the things, I would say, it was probably the case since many years that mainly Russian scientists could go to those labs. Russian scientists, I would say, from CNRS, yeah, or from French universities, but going through CNRS. We can send people from university. We have mechanism from other research organization also. We can send them through our own institution. And I think that people are looking more into more and more detail. Also, we had few labs. I would say 10 years ago, we had fewer labs, joint labs abroad than now. When you have 80 labs, and we've got probably going at one point to go maybe to 100. But of course, we can't keep them all alive. So we're going to look more into details at the results in terms of publication, in terms of patents, in terms also of whom we can send. And the one that are out of the norm, I would say, even if they're successful, and that's the case now, I think a lab like the Poncelet lab is very successful, but we have that problem that we cannot send other scientists, and it's going to be the same problem with other structure. And I think that's linked to the fact that we don't have that type of problem, for example, in the States or in Canada or in Japan, because we are allowed to come with our full salaries there as, I don't know, through talent mechanism or other mechanism, whereas we can't do it in Russia. And I would say up to a certain point, we're having a similar problem, but I think it's going to be easier to solve it with UK now.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Khan-Malek. I think that's a very important point that was raised right now, and I have also to say that one of the points that specifically mentioned in the international concept or in the concept for international development, S&T development of the Russian Federation, was to look at the term of the issue and the technical but very essential problems, like problems with the long-term visas, problem with a more easy move between the countries, on the way how the regulations can be eased instead of making it more difficult. And I think that this is one of the issues that we should look very closely when the working group will be developing further the mobility program for Russia. Because I think I fully agree with you that these laboratories are the essence of the collaboration, and there is a huge benefit for both countries in the work that has been done. I personally visited the mathematical one. I think it's a tremendous place to work with and to deal with. I just want to also ask Sari Eriksson, since your program will be launched very soon in September, as you mentioned, any of the issues, any of the points that were mentioned by Bernhard and Chantal, do you face any of the similar issues? Do you have any similar concerns about the programs? Do you think about the reciprocity program? What will be your comment?
Yeah, thank you very much. And once again, I really want to thank Academy of Science for inviting Finland here to be present as well for this conference. I think this is very important and interesting discussion that we are having here. And as I mentioned in my presentation about those the new mobility call that will be taking place in September. This is something that we have yearly. So this is yearly. The Academy of Finland has this call for academic mobility, and there are approximately 70 researchers from Russian side and the Finnish side are using this as an instrument for doing research in each of our countries. So this has been very important. We used to have years ago. We used to have this together with the Academy of Science, and now we are very happy that the Academy of Science has this working group, and you are also planning to new mobility program, as we see that's very crucial and it's very important between our countries. We don't have so many joint research calls yearly. We have very few number of those, maybe 5 joint research calls between the Academy of Finland and with organizations in Russian side. So it's not so huge, but those mobility programs and mobility between the research, this is something that we are really appreciating from the Finnish side. And also what I would like to mention here are those other instruments, not only those instruments that we are having, but for instance, those mega grants funding instruments that the Russia is having. That's very important. And this is something that we are very happy that we have those. And we can see that, for instance, those flagship programs that the Academy of Finland has, we have professors who have grants from our Academy of Finland flagship program, also from the mega grant. So I really see that this is something that really increased the cooperation in research between different countries. So we really appreciate that. And also those discussions about visa issues, how this is something that we currently are trying to do at the Ministry of Education, because we how to smoothen those, make it more flexible for researchers. For instance, in this mobility call, we have these short-term periods that the researchers can use not only for longer term, but also for the shorter term. So this crossing the border would be as easy as possible. So we really, for us, this mobility and people-to-people connection between researchers, that's very important, and we are very, very pleased to discuss further on with the Academy of Science and collaborate on that field. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sari. This is a great comment. We will definitely also take this in consideration, and we'll be happy to discuss further activity that we are doing in the working group preparing the Russia program together. I also would like to make sure that we have the floor from Germany and say a few words from the German perspective about first of all, I would ask to speak about the impact, because I think usually you are definitely measure the impact. So, and I think Professor Plunger raised a very important point about, should we change the impact? Should we do it differently? What's your perspective right now?
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Kuklina, and you and Bernhard Planger before are raising, I think, an extremely important point. But let me just start by saying, on behalf of the German Academic Exchange Service, DED, that overall our cooperation with Russian partners runs very smoothly, and there are always technical issues, of course. The visa question is always something which has to be solved, but it's as I said, overall quite successfully we did this, and we have a two-way scientific mobility, but it could be more balanced. So we hope to encourage more German scientists to go to Russia. But back to the point, and there's a connection, I think. We have to raise the strategic profile, I think, of our already successful cooperation to strengthen the outreach of the results. We do this, of course, by regularly evaluating our project funding and our scholarship programs, but this is more for reporting back to the government which funds our programs. I think it would be very helpful if we could jointly have an even greater outreach in the scientific community and demonstrate how we, with our programs, first of all, of course, strengthening the capacity and the results of the involved academic institution, but also tackle the, this was mentioned today, the global challenges we all share in our country and which we have to tackle together. So we have with our Russian partners the German-Russian roadmap, which is extremely important, I think, but this has to be sustained, a strategic approach by bottom-up activity, and there I see a lot of things we could do in the future, joint events, activities to highlight this even more.
Thank you. Thank you, Andres. This is, I think, great proposal to do the joint events. And I think the joint event to raise the profile for these programs will be very happy and ready to do so. Let me now move to slightly different questions. I mean, they all, as you know, interlinked in the mobility programs. But let me raise the questions that might not, I will put them together, although they might look different. But on one hand, when we structure the program now, we're looking at expeditions, field research, summer, winter schools, and the question is how long they should take, first of all, and second, what period of time for budget planning should be allocated in the preparation for academic mobility program. So what should we give on one hand? And on the other hand, I will bring, that might look a slightly different question, but we now live in the COVID time. I hope we will overcome soon, but definitely the mobility program was very significantly influenced by the situation in the world. Now we come to the idea of virtual mobility. We know that when we speak today about the research infrastructures, and currently we have this huge project Kremlin Plus between the European community and the Russian Federation on the development and interlinkages between large research infrastructures of our countries. So the question that comes here, that we, in this time, we can use the virtual experiments in these large research infrastructures. So what about the virtual mobility? What do you think? Is there any essence, does it make sense to speak about virtual mobility? What then should we do together when we speak about the virtual mobility, and how to do this best? And what is the general attitude you have towards the virtual mobility? Now I'm just open the floor. Any volunteer to give the first profile, the first opinion on that? Yeah. What, Professor Plunger, shall we give the floor again to you first, Berhard?
Depends. You are the master of disaster here. No, I mean, if you allow me, I would like to react on the first question. If I got it right, then it was the question, how much resources, I call resources, not only money, also time, should be spent on expeditions, field trips, and so on. I think an application to which program ever should be convincing enough that the balance between the resources that are allocated for various, let's say, work packages is described in a way that one can accept. So what we try to do is to give not too many regulations to our applicants, but some framework conditions and of course then a clear feedback why maybe there were some budget cuts or not. And regarding the virtual mobility question, this is of course a hot topic at the moment. I tried to find a link on the ALEA webpage, all European academies network, where the Austrian Academy, Austro-Russian Academy, and other academies are participating, do have, as far as I understand, a new working group, which was mainly supported, if I remember correctly, by the Global Young Academy on academic mobility. I think that's the keyword or the catchword they use. I try to find a link and send it later on to the colleagues at the Russian Academy so that they can distribute this to all of us. But I did not find it on the spot. And there they really raised the question not only regarding projects but also regarding all kinds of scientific mobility, and whether it makes sense that we meet in person, although we see that we can organize a Zoom meeting like today within a very few days or some 2 weeks or so. Yeah. So it's an open question. It's an interesting question and it's an important question. And of course, it has some implications also regarding the Sustainable Development Goals, no doubt about that. So yes, it's a hot topic. But no answers at the moment available.
Thank you, Bernhard, and thank you for the link. We are looking forward. And since we are still have quite a number of audience, quite a number of people watching us, in spite of being with us already for 3 hours, they are all looking forward for the materials. We will include the link that you will send also to the presentations material that everyone will receive. Let me give also the floor to Professor Hanmalek. Would you like to say a few words about these topics? What do you think? Yeah. Are you with us? Yeah. Would you like to comment about either the virtual mobility? We're discussing two topics. One about the virtual mobility. Does it make sense?
Yeah, virtual mobility. I think it's good to go towards a hybrid form. That means virtual mobility, yes, but not only virtual mobility. For everything, even for meetings, I would say, of course, for lab works or whatever, nothing replaces, I would say, like you were saying, expedition fields, even working in a lab with colleagues or whatever. But even for meetings, I would say, because there's always, I would say, the formal part, which is what we're doing now, but there's also, and that's as important in many meetings, I would say, the informal part, what people talk about near the coffee machine or just in the corridor or whatever, or at a dinner. And those links are not replaceable. And often, I would say, you can you can have scientific discussion, you can have strategic discussion, it builds trusts also. You know people more. We're only having, I would say, through a virtual meeting, and well, everybody knows it. We only have one fraction of what's happening in a normal meeting. So, so that's about it. I just want to go back to maybe funding. Well, that was my second concern was, what's going to happen with all the, I would say, with up to a certain point, the disappearance of the RFBR right now. Who is going, or what mechanism is going to cover up, if any, for all those funds for small mobility? I don't see any at the moment in the landscape, in the Russian landscape.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your question. I also remember you had this question in your presentation as a concern what happens with the ongoing projects. First of all, I would like to say about the ongoing projects that you have with the RFBR, and the ongoing projects will still be continued funding over the period that they were agreed for. They won't be stopped right now, this year or next year. So all the projects that were selected and agreed for receiving funding for 2 years, 3 years, they will still be ongoing, and that will take place this year and next year and the next year until the end of the project. You wanted to add something?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah. That sounds true for the small project, the Explorer projects. For the other, there were competitions every year, and those competitions are not going to take place any longer. So that means the other project, we just have one that's still running, an older competition. So no, the ongoing project, but it's not only the ongoing project, the next generation of project, of more structured projects or bigger projects and just exploring projects.
The project that has not been started yet, so the new projects or the project in new format, they will be discussed, and they will be discussed. You will have at least 2 or 3 partners in that. The Russian Foundation, the Russian Science Foundation, the Russian Academy of Sciences, and the new program on mobility is going also to step in to work with this program, as well as some of the work that is going with the Ministry of Science and Higher Education. So you will have a palette to work with. So you will have a choice to go and enjoy and discussing this option with the Russian Academy of Sciences, with the Russian Science Foundation, and with the ministry. And I think that will help you to find the most suitable and the most appropriate format. I just can bring an example. If we speak about the collaboration with Austria and with the programs that, exchange program that are very well managed by Austrian government and Austrian agencies, then of course the Russian Academy of Sciences will be the best option with the mobility program. If we speak about some large-scale projects, then most probably that will best go into the Russian Science Foundation. If you speak about the applied project or the projects very close to the commercialization stage, or looking at some of the laboratories, that can be the Ministry of Science and Higher Education. But I think this is something that can be discussed in the joint working groups and in direct communication with these agencies. But I just fully agree with you that if we can travel, if we can discuss this live, that will make things much more easy right now. So I agree with you that discussing this new development of this or reoccurrence of these programs in a new format virtually is much more harder than discussing it live. But I think the good part and the good part for the mobility also programs that between Russia and France, even with the current situation, the scientific visas over the short travel, we still can allow the short travel. So there is a process how to do this even in the COVID time. Maybe not to that huge amount of research as we would like to, but to the current research program, this is possible to do so. And I've discussed it recently, both with the French embassy and in Moscow, and also with the Russian embassy in Paris. So they have confirmed this possibility, which is great. If you allow me, let me raise those two questions again about the expeditions, field research, summer, winter schools, and the period of time for budget planning to be allocated for in preparation of academic mobility program, and the question on virtual mobility. Can it take place? Can it take place in a mixed format, as was just offered by Professor Han Malek? Or what is the essence? Can we see the essence behind the virtual mobility? And I see that Alexandra Rosenbach is with us again. Would you like to comment on that?
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Yes. I didn't follow the earlier discussion, unfortunately, but I understand that you were discussing virtual mobility as a means to sort of maybe bridge the challenges we were facing in the pandemic. I think for researchers, virtual mobility is very difficult to achieve. I think this is probably more a format that applies to students. Also thinking back to the time that I worked at a university, I remember very vividly that we were implementing formats for virtual mobility for students to take part in international classes and things like that. But I think for researchers, it is very difficult to do that. And since we are a research-only organization as Helmholtz, we actually do not have students. The entry level for us is PhD. I think it is very difficult for us to bridge this challenge by means of virtual mobility, to be honest. I do think that there are a lot of formats that are worthwhile exploring, and we also discovered that during the pandemic, you can maintain very good scientific relations with virtual events, such as conferences and workshops, etc. But in my personal opinion, after almost 1.5 years of experience, it shows that existing relationships can endure, but it is very hard to start new relationships and contacts. I'm very sorry if this is maybe a repetition of something you already discussed earlier, then I missed it, I'm sorry. But for Helmholtz, we very much came to that conclusion. So forging new relationships is very difficult in a situation like we just had with Corona. So in that sense, I think virtual events can suffice for a certain amount of time, but they cannot replace real-life contacts, because as we all know, the good ideas for the future, the interesting collaboration prospects, the connections between people, all this really comes up when you meet face-to-face. So I think it can only be a temporary means to meet up virtually. And in terms of sending younger PhDs or postdocs abroad, I think it's very vital that they experience the partner institute, that they go into the lab there, that they experience the culture and the language. So just traveling virtually, I think, is not the same experience and can never really meet all the criteria. So that is basically the experience and the opinion of Helmholtz in this regard. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra. I think we on this question we've heard an interesting view from Austria, but I think what you've mentioned right now is also the concern was also raised by Professor Han Malek from France, that it will be, as you said, quite impossible for the new users, for the new mobility researchers. Let me then move to the second part of the question, second part of the points. I would say at the Russian Academy of Sciences, first of all, we're speaking about the researchers and the programs that are developed for the already established researchers or young researchers that came for the institutes. But I think there is a specific group which is extremely important for the development of science in any country are the postdocs. And the question is, participation in postdoc programs, do you think it's a necessary milestone in the academic career of a scientist? Or is it like a desperate measure? What should we do for the postdocs? And what do you think, what are the new challenges you see in the labor market for the precariat? I know that all of you most probably is following the events that is organized by OECD on the precariat issues. And Russia was also offered saying that one of the events of precariat will be happy to do in Russia to discuss these points. But what do you think about the postdocs and postdocs program? Do we need to stand them separately? And is it the milestone? Is it the desperate measure? I'll be very happy to give the floor to Sari Eriksson and also then to the Andreas later, because I think that you are the person to say a lot about that. But let's first give the floor to Sari Eriksson.
Thank you very much. If you may me to continue a little bit with the virtual research mobility, if I just briefly comment on that. Yes, so, sorry for getting back to this. I agree with Alexandra. I see that that's the virtual mobility cannot really replace the physical mobility. But at the same time, I really see that that will be the future for us, as we are now seeing this digi-native generation who has been already doing schooling for 1.5 years in some part of the world only virtually. And if you are looking to higher education institutions who are also dealing virtually for more than a year, and those are the future researchers that we are having, and they already have these abilities, they have already those skills. So I believe that that will be in the future, that there is no way for getting back those days we had before the pandemic. So there is going to be some kind of hybrid model or whatever it's going to be. But I really see that now we are facing something new, and we should be open-minded for that, because the new generation is going to be, they are doing that already. And also from Finnish perspective, we have those mobility and international programs for higher education cooperation. And for us, this virtual path, virtual mobility is already included in there. So there is, that's already the starting point for the international collaboration. And I really, of course, there are fields, research fields, where the virtual mobility is more difficult than in other fields, but still, I think that we should be open-minded for that. And the question now, if I get back to this question about the postdocs, for instance, in Finland, for the Academy of Finland, it made changes some years ago, and they are at the moment they are not funding any more doctoral research that they used to do before. So the focus is getting more on the postdoctoral research funding. So this is I can see that there is the changes going on, and there is more funding going governmental funding going to this postdoctoral research, and at universities they are themselves funding the doctoral research. This is definitely important, and the cooperation with international cooperation for postdoctoral researchers, I see that that's also very crucial and important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sari. Andreas, would you like to say a few words on that?
Yes, thank you. And please allow me to say very briefly a few words on the virtual mobility issue too, because as it was pointed out, this is now an extremely pertinent point, and we have already gathered a lot of experience during the month of the pandemic when we try to bridge the situation of travel restrictions. In the DAD, we're discussing it, and and there I completely agree with all the other speakers. We do not see virtual mobility replacing physical mobility. However, I think, we should use digital technologies to increase the efficacy and efficiency of physical mobility in terms of using these technologies to organize a better preparation for physical mobility, to have seminars in digital format before the actual mobility takes place. And this, of course, requires more flexibility in our programs as well. And at the very moment, we are working on that to come to, and this word was used, hybrid or blended formats of mobility and support for scientists. But now to the postdocs, and this you said is quite rightly is a complex topic, because it's arguably the most important step in a researcher's career, this postdoc phase, and then there are challenges, of course, and I think this is one step where international experience and international networks are most needed for young scientists. So we are strongly in favor of sustaining our support through our scholarship programs, and this is one of our core target groups. The programs I mentioned in my talk, the research grants we jointly run with our Russian partners, all include support for postdocs, and with a view to the challenges and the difficulties to find the right direction. I think it's very important from our perspective, to keep supporting this target group. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas, for your comment. I would like, before closing our discussion and before closing our session, I would like to ask all of you if you have any questions about the program that is currently being developed in Russia. Myself and Olga Gluchovtseva will be happy to answer any of the questions you have. And also, what nuances are most important, will be most important for you as a partner for this program. So I wouldn't be thinking about completely new thing, but maybe Professor Plunger, would you like to start again?
Yes, with pleasure. Thank you. Actually, I do not really have a question, but I have a comment. And this maybe wraps up a little bit what was said by Sari and also Andreas. Science as such is international. We find solutions for global questions and issues and problems only by a common initiative, and I would say a worldwide common initiative. Well, we are all heavily involved in the Corona pandemic, and this might be a really good example for what happens if we join our forces, namely the development of vaccinations or vaccines within a few months, which is really incredible. Yeah, and what I experienced really right from the start, more than a year ago. Already in March 2020, I received a lot of questions from all over the world, from research groups that they want to cooperate on this hot topic with colleagues in Austria. And I mentioned that earlier, Austria is a very, very small country. So we are forced to join forces with our partners worldwide. So this is maybe more a comment and not so much a question. And of course, this I could also formulate it in question, namely, how will you approach this issue in the programs that are planned in Russia? So I could formulate it also in a question. And a second point that I also mentioned in the chat at the very beginning is that I would be really extremely interesting in these key documents that were mentioned at the very beginning, because on the Russian side, which are, as far as I understand, also documents issued by the Russian government. So that is always very interesting, because I'm convinced that research and research organizations like academies are strong because of their autonomy. And this is very, very important in order to be very clear on the definitions of topics that should be approached. And the sustainable development goals are a very good frame where one could orient a program to, I suggest. So no real questions, but more comments from my side. Thank you.
Thank you for a valuable point. I think that, and this is a good question for us now to think while formulating the program. We have in Russia a very good experience within BRICS program when we started with the joint programs, which was not an easy part, but we managed to do so. Multilateral programs, but now we are coming to the format of a global program. So we're basically looking for the project or some programs that neither of us can implement by ourselves. So, or those part of research, those areas that we can achieve only by joining our efforts together. Clearly, either because of necessity of use different equipment at different territories, or because the challenges that exist within the programs force us to join the forces for technological development. I think that's also partially answered, but we still are in the very beginning to think how to implement this and how to think this within the mobility program. Thank you for the comment. Let me then ask Professor Han-Malek, would you like, I know you've already asked questions, but maybe you have some other questions, or I actually wrote down everything you've mentioned. So we'll try to force an answer maximum. Would you like to add anything?
Well, I think that's important. You were talking about global program, and I think they're very important. But again, it's a bit like with virtual relation versus real relation. I think bilateral relations are also important. Multilateral programs are very, very important to solve very big challenges, but also to have a good linkage bilaterally can add and do a better and more efficient multilateral I would say intensifying research, etc. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to go directly bilateral, to go in multilateral directly without having any bilateral basis. I'm always emphasizing bilateral, not versus, but as complementary to multilateral.
Thank you.
That's my comment.
Thank you. That's a very important point. It reminds me about our great experience of French-Russian collaboration in Antarctic. especially on the ice research. And it's also one of my dreams to do in the future, my personal dream is to make sure that at some point the big track that was developed by Nizhny Novgorod University in order to move in the Arctic, Antarctic, but in the ice. It has already several thousand kilometers of track within Russia in very unusual and very difficult conditions in Yakutia, in the very north. And my dream is to make sure that maybe once this track that can start at -60, because there are great technical discoveries on how to use two engines and with very special technical things that they've set up, so that it can join the French expedition going to a new station in the Antarctic, which I think takes the longest to take from the sea to the station. So I hope that this we can do in bilateral programs, and I hope we'll do this in the near future, because I think that will be a good example of our joint bilateral collaboration. Let me move further with the questions and with the questions that you might have. Alexandra, Andreas, do you have any questions to us, or do you have any new answers that we need to consider and take in consideration when planning Russia mobility program?
Yeah, I'll start. Thank you very much. And I don't have an actual question, but I would like to comment on today's conference and the result. And I was delighted to be invited, and I'm very grateful for the open, inclusive approach of with your development of the new program. And I would be delighted if you continue to share your experience with us, with all the other stakeholders, your partners, and the international scientific community. I think we will all benefit from it very greatly. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Andreas. Sari, do you have any questions? Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Yeah, I really, also what Andreas was mentioning, I'm very pleased and very grateful to be here today. It has been a pleasure to be here and present Finland. And also this is such a good start for taking all of us and having this discussion. So I really have strong belief that this process is going very well in cooperation. And I'm looking forward to hear more how in which direction this working group is deciding to go with the program. So I'm really looking forward to continue our cooperation and discussion, and I believe that it's going to be very fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sari. I would like to thank all of you for this discussion. I can promise that the Russian Academy of Sciences will send you all the materials, and we'll definitely be in touch with you so that you can look and see all the steps of the development of the programs. And if during the development of the programs you will have any comments or any issues or any concerns, we'll be very happy to answer. Thank you. I think with this we will close.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.